Running a hobby farm is rewarding, but let's be honest, it's also exhausting. People will often ask me, can you take a vacation from your farm? And the answer is yes, as long as you have a plan. Today, I'm going to share why it's so important that you take a vacation from your farm. And I'm also going to share 8 important tips that will help you make it happen. Plus, I'm going to share a smart strategy to help you avoid a common travel nightmare. So let's dive in. Can farmers really take vacation? Yes, they can, and they should. Enjoying quality time with their family is so important. Why would you need a break from something that you love or something that you've always dreamed about? The really important reason is that you want to prevent burnout, because running a farm is a lot of hard work. You really do push yourself physically and emotionally, and you want to try your best to not be so exhausted, because after a while, it is really exhausting. Everyone deserves a rest, and farmers are truly no exception. Whether you're going to go to a resort, to a spa, any sort of a weekend getaway, you need time to recharge and just rest. Once you have that time away, you come back and you truly are relaxed and refreshed and ready to start again. One of the hardest parts about leaving your farm is finding somebody that can look after your animals. Finding somebody that, Mocha's itchy, it's spring and she's shedding. Finding somebody that knows how to look after big animals, especially horses, is really difficult. Horses can be really intimidating, even if you had cattle or whatever your animals are, but finding someone that is comfortable with your animals is really important. Cost is another thing, and it can really add up. Ideally, it would be amazing if you had a neighbor or a friend or someone else that had a farm that you could exchange with. So for instance, when you go away, they look after your animals, and then when they go away, you look after their animals. When we go away, we always find someone that can stay here with our animals, because it just makes me more comfortable knowing that someone is here all the time. We also have other animals, not just horses. So we have chickens, we also have a dog, and then that way someone is here if something was to happen with them all the time. We're even more lucky because we have amazing neighbors. So someone is staying at our house if we're away, but our neighbors are also looking after our property just to keep an eye in case a fence breaks or a horse gets out. Then they know too, and they can always give a hand. So we're even more lucky than the average person. So here are my 8 tips to prepare your farm for when you go away. Number 1, which is the biggest, is to find a reliable sitter. It can be a friend, a family member, or even a professional farm sitter. Number 2 is to create a detailed farm manual. And this is so important because you need all of the important information in there. You need medication, feed schedules, and any sort of emergency contacts. If you want to see what I leave for our farm sitter, just comment below and I'll send you a copy, because that will save you a ton of work. Number 3 would be if you have any sort of an automated feeding or watering system that you could implement for your sitter, this would be really important to do, because you want to try to make things as easy as possible for them. If you don't have any fancy watering systems or anything like that, that's okay too, but just make sure you leave extra buckets in case your buckets freeze during the winter. Also, you want to make sure you leave a hose. If they do need to refill troughs, then that's accessible for them too. Tip number 4 would be make sure you stock up on all of your supplies. So that includes feed, medication, bedding, anything that your animals will need while you're away. You have to make sure, I always leave extra. So you have to make sure that they have enough so that they don't run out while you're away. If you feed round hay bales, make sure that you've got enough in your fields so that the sitter doesn't have to restock those. We feed square bales of hay. So what I do is at the front of our hay shed, I put the hay there, and I do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's really accessible for the person. And secondly, I put out the number of bales of hay that I know they're gonna need. That way I know, did the person feed enough? Maybe if they were dipping into the hay that's behind, maybe they're feeding too much. So this way, the next time that that farm sitter comes, I'll be able to say, feed them this much. Because with square bales, it is kind of difficult because the flakes themselves are different sizes. So it's not as easy as just saying, okay, feed 3 flakes or feed 1 bale, because there's all sorts of factors. So it just really helps to make sure your animals are being fed appropriately. Next is your medication. And what I do for our horses is I have a dosette. You can grab one at the dollar store, and I put all of their pills in the actual dosette and put their name on it, because that way I've laid out the pills, and then if the pills are missed, I know what medication has been missed. It's really important with medication that you're really clear on your instructions, and somewhere the person that's looking after your animals does need to know about the medication. For instance, Peanut, our gelding, he gets Previcox and Presend. So the person needs to know what those medications are. The other thing that they would need to know is any sort of non-prescription medication, if they're getting any sort of oils or other supplements, because in case of an emergency that a vet is coming, they need to know exactly what sorts of things that the animal is taking, prescription and non-prescription medication. Tip number 5 would be make sure you check your fences and your gates and complete any repairs that are required. You want to make sure your animals are safe when you're away. Something else you might want to consider is having some sort of a security camera or some sort of a system on your property while you're away. I will put a link in the description just as a suggestion. Sometimes it would give you some peace of mind to see what's going on, and maybe sometimes it wouldn't. Tip number 6 would be make sure that you have some detailed emergency contacts. I'm always accessible by cell phone when I'm away, but you may not be. Maybe you're in a remote place that doesn't have service, so you need to have an alternate contact that you feel comfortable and confident in that person, that they could make a decision for you and your animals if you weren't accessible. Something else to leave for your caretaker is just a list of just general emergency contacts so that they have it and you're not looking for those numbers while you're away. I always like to leave the vet's number. You could include the feed store. They're also helpful if there's any sort of questions. If you have any kind of neighbors, that would be helpful, or someone that lives in your area, maybe a father-in-law, a mother-in-law, someone like that. Make sure you leave all those numbers for the person in writing, because you don't want to be looking for those numbers in an emergency, and it just will make your life a lot easier if it's needed. If your caretaker is new to your crew, something that I like to do is leave a description of the animal. Like, for instance, Peanut is the horse with the white strip on his face, or Mocha is the horse with the black tail. I even do that for my father-in-law when he's looking after the animals. I put that on their stall doors. Mocha is the one with the black tail, so that he knows that Mocha is going into this stall and she has a black tail. Peanut is going into this stall and he has the white strip on his face. It's just helpful cues, and then it prevents errors. Tip number 8 is probably my most challenging thing ever, and it's keeping instructions simple. I'm often way too detailed, and my husband tells me to write less, and I'm trying. If at all possible, try to use bullet points and keep your instructions precise. That will avoid fewer errors when you're away. So as promised, I said I would give you one more tip, and I almost forgot. We've all heard of those horror stories where we arrive at our dream vacation spot only to find that our luggage hasn't arrived. On our last vacation, we used Apple AirTags, and we put one in each of our suitcases. That way we could track our luggage every step of the way. So when we arrived, we knew that most of our luggage had arrived. And funny enough, my suitcase was the only one that hadn't got there. But lucky for us, I did have an Apple AirTag in the bag. I could see that my luggage was in the ship. It just hadn't arrived to our room yet. So that was a huge relief for me. If you want peace of mind, grab some of these Apple AirTags so that you have them for your next vacation. I'll put a link in the description. Taking a vacation from your farm is truly possible as long as you have the right plan. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. Have you ever taken a vacation from your farm? Is there something that I missed? Make sure you mention that in the comment below, and check out that video that YouTube is suggesting for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.